We're going to start using slope-intercept form to help us graph. So make sure you have these notes in front of you. And this is my favorite part of graphing. I absolutely love to do this because I don't know, it seems pretty easy. Remember, we have to always write, and I'm going to write the slope-intercept form at the top of the page, y equals mx plus b. That's the format we always have to use. Otherwise, you really can't graph. You need to know specifically what the slope is and specifically what the y-intercept is. Okay, so our first problem is this slope. First of all, I'm going to start with y equals. It's always going to start that way. And notice, first of all, where it cuts through the y-intercept is at -1, so I must have to subtract a 1 at the end. And remember, rise over run. Well, look at this. In order to get to my next point, I have to go down 2, and then I have to count over. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I'm going down 2 and over 6. I can simplify this, though. So if I divide both the 2 and the 6 by 2, I should end up with -1/3. So my rise is -1. That means I go down 1 over 3. So if you want to look here, I could start here and go down 1 over 3. Here I am, down 1 over 3. That's my slope. So it's -1/3 x minus 1. The next problem, where does it cross the y-axis, right here. So it's at 0, 1, 2, -3. So I know I have to subtract 3 at the end because that's where my graph starts. I'll start with my y equals. Now remember, again, we have to do rise over run. So the first thing I should do is count up from here. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'll even make the loops if you need. 5, 6. So I'm going up 6. Up is a positive, so I'll just write the 6. And I have to go over 1. So the slope must be 6 over 1. The other way to write it is 6. So it's 6x minus 3. Now I want you to remember this special case. Do you see anything in the y-intercept? No. So another way to think of it is +0. That means I'm starting this graph at 0. So let me choose another color marker here and just show you what this looks like. I think I'll go over here just because it's quicker. So if my first point is at the origin at 0, 0, and it says the slope is 2, that means I'm rising up 2, 1, 2 over 1. Okay, and I'd go up 2, 1, 2 over 1. So this would be my line. Hopefully yours is a little straighter. It's hard for me to draw straight. But you notice it should go through the x-axis, or the origin, sorry. Now I'm going to scroll down, so if you need to pause the video, please do so. Here's our next set of cases here. Now, a lot of times, they give you the equation like this, and you have to graph it. Okay, so remember on the page before, we learned that we always start at the y-intercept, which is at 4 in this case. I'm going to count up to 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Here's my first point. Now, the slope is just -x. Remember, if there is no coefficient, it's assumed to be what? Yeah, 1. So it's -1. That means I'm going down 1 over 1. Down 1 over 1 to the right. Down 1 over 1. Zoom. Okay. This next one, oh no. Did you notice something different about this one? It's not in slope-intercept form. There's a number, a constant on the same side of the equation with a y. I can't have that. So we know we need to get the y by itself. The only way I can do that is to move this one over there. And you know from algebra, what do we have to do? The opposite. So I'm going to subtract 1 on both sides. Okay, so our new equation looks like this. Y equals 1/4 x. Now this time it's -1, remember, because we subtracted it from both sides. Hopefully you can see this. Okay, so don't forget, we always start at the y-intercept. So that's this part right here, -1. Boom, right there it is. Now this is a positive slope because the coefficient in front of the x is positive. And the rise is on top, so I'm going up 1, but then over 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. There's my second point. I really don't need more than that. I like to oftentimes draw more than that, but just for the sake of time, I won't. I'll try to connect these a little bit neater so that you can actually see how the line should look. My dots are not perfect. Don't forget, we always draw arrows at the end because otherwise it's really not a continuous line. We don't know where it stops, so that's what we need to do. Let's try a couple others. Oh, I want to point this out. Notice y equals 4. It looks a little different. When y equals 4, that means it's 1, 2, 3, 4. Here's the y-intercept, y equals 4, but it's missing a slope. There is no slope. Remember our skier dude? If there's no slope, if it's 0 slope, it's flat. 0 fun. Remember that? Okay, my line isn't exactly flat, but it's supposed to be. So please try to draw yours with a ruler or a straight edge. Okay, it's flat. So this has no slope because you notice there's no x involved. Now let's try some problems at the bottom. It says identify the slope and the y-intercept for each. Did you notice in this problem it's not in y-intercept form? So we have to do a little bit of algebra, which is fine. The first thing we always want to remove is the things being added or subtracted from the y. So -2x is the first thing I want to move. I'm going to add that to both sides. I'm adding it because I'm doing the opposite. That's adding 2x. I hope you can read this. So now I'm going to just continue over here because I don't have a lot of space. Now I have 4y. I got rid of my -2x. Now I have equals positive 2x because we did the opposite. 2x plus 8. Hopefully you can read that. I'm not done. Now I have a coefficient in front of y. Okay. The only way to get rid of something I'm multiplying is by doing the opposite, which is division. Whatever I divide on the left, I have to divide. Oops, oh my gosh, not a y. Sorry, that's a scratch. Okay, so I'm going to divide this whole thing by 4. And this is how it works. 4 and 4 cancel out. I'm left with y. On the other side, I have 2/4 x. I'm going to write it just like that for now. 2/4 x. And then this is the nice easy part. What's 8 divided by 4? It's just 2. So if I were to simplify this further, this is what I would have. And I'll erase this when we go on to the next problem. Y equals, what's 2/4? If I simplify it, it's 1/2. 1/2 x plus 2. That is my y intercept form, slope intercept form. Oh my gosh. This is my slope, 1/2. This, 2, is my y-intercept. Pause this if you need to because I need to erase this so I have room to work. Okay. Okay, for letter B. It's, again, not in y-intercept form, slope-intercept form. So I need to move y to the left, and I need to move 7 to the right. So I'll start by moving y. I'll subtract it from both sides. Now I have, I'll write it over here because I don't have a lot of space here, negative y. Now I have plus 7. Nothing changed there. equals, now remember it's a negative x. Okay, now I have to move the 7 over, so I'm going to subtract 7 on both sides. Oh, goodness, though. Look at, I have a negative y. That means I still have a coefficient in front of y. I can't have a coefficient in front of y if I put it in slope-intercept form. So what I need to do is multiply everything here by a negative 1. If I multiply everything by a negative 1, it eliminates my negative y. So now I have y equals, and remember this is the distributive property, negative 1 times negative x is a positive x. Negative 1 times negative 7 is positive 7. What is my slope? It's 1 because that's the coefficient in front of x. My y-intercept is positive 7. Okay, now in this problem, we need to find change in y. I'll write here just because I'm running out of space. Change in y over change in x. So pick two y values and pick two x values. Okay, what's the difference between 5 and negative 3? Well, we end up adding those. And what's the difference between, oh gosh, I'm running out of space, I'm so sorry, negative 2 and subtract 2. So 5 minus negative 3, if you recall, these two negatives become positive, and now I have 8. And I have negative 2 minus 2, which is negative 4. If I were to simplify that, it looks like my slope would be negative 2. Okay, so I now know I have y equals negative 2 x. Now, how in God's name would I figure out what the y-intercept is? Well, I know for the y-intercept, I have to have an x value of 0. Okay, I had to erase everything because I was running out of space. We had this. We have y equals, and we know our slope was negative 2x. That means the y is going down 2 for every x that's going down 1. So if my next value here for x was negative 1, the y value at that point would be 3. I know x has to be 0 for my y-intercept. So when it's 0, it's going to go down 2 more here. I was at 3, now I'm at 1. So my y-intercept is 1. And that one was tricky to show you, so because I don't have any room. I'm going to pause here. We will do the next two in class as practice with you.